And welcome to Let's Chat with Simon and Tony. Today we've got a very exciting show and we've got a very special guest. But before we do that, let's just introduce ourselves. Simon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, Tony. And how are you anyway this morning? On this
I'm
lovely
going,
Friday morning.
I'm absolutely going magnificent. And yourself?
Yeah, great. I'm glad it's Friday. I've had a busy week and looking forward to a relaxing weekend, actually, Tony.
That's right. We all need those relaxing weekends to recharge the batteries, don't we?
Absolutely. But anyway, for those that have never met me, my name is Simon Bowden. I'm an international marketing business coach with 25 years experience, which makes me a master coach. My mission is always to help my clients identify their aspirations and vision, strengths and blind spots, help them make informed decisions and take actions when needed to ultimately fast track them towards their personal goals. My coaching caters for executives and directors to entrepreneurs, small business owners and beyond. Whatever your situation, I'll help you build on your strengths and get clear on how to create a profitable future. I love what I do and I'm passionate about helping my clients succeed, as you know, Tony.
Absolutely. And one might ask, what do I do? Well, I call myself the Wellbeing Pathfinder. And what I actually do is I help individuals and business owners via customized retreats, workshops, and consultations to maximize their feelings of vibrance, purpose, happiness, health, and success. So that's what I do. And we've got a very special guest on today, and his name is Barry Auchettl. So, Barry, welcome to our program.
Tell us what. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Simon. Really excited about being here today and sharing you some really exciting things here.
Beautiful. So let me just read out Barry's bio. Just bear with me for a second while I get myself organised. Now, Barry is a life visionary from Australia who has transformed his own life through raising his own vibration in the inner world and frequency in the outer world using kinesiology. I'll get that right.
Got that right.
That's a mouthful. And his own unique energy system called light body alignment. He now supports others to do the same through his life vision mentoring. Barry is the Chief Vision Officer of the Vision School org that benefits people in improving their own eyesight and vision of life. Wow. He is the creator of Conversations, an inspirational game, producer and star of Vision 2020, which was an actual movie from eyesight to insight, and the author of several books, including The Scan Charts and the #1 bestseller, One Vision. Well, Barry.
Thanks, Tony. Certainly a lot there, and I've certainly been busy, I think.
That's right. So I'm just going to lead in with the first question. So what has changed that shifted you from a school teacher to be a world entrepreneur?
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Simon. I love, by the way, I love the fact that both of you have been talking about vision, because I'm really into vision, and it's actually where I started. I wore Coke bottle glasses, and this is back in 1992. And I visited a behavioural optometrist, and he said to me, "What can we do about your eyes?" And I said, "Don't worry about me, save the boy." I had a 16-year-old boy. It was like, save him. Something tweaked in me at that moment, and in the next 2 months, I actually managed by myself to get out of those thick glasses into single lenses and have never needed to have reading glasses since. I had those sort of multifocal glasses that went up and down. Within 6 months, I passed a driver's license with 20/20 vision and still able to drive a car now without glasses. So that's sort of where I started. Now, the interesting thing that happened is 2 weeks after that, I went back to the optometrist, who was a friend of mine by this stage, and he tried a test on my peripheral vision, and I didn't have any. And 2 weeks later, I was operated on with a pituitary tumor sitting on my optic nerve.
Wow. So that was a massive sort of challenge there, and it's interesting how it's in life where we have a crisis, which which shows us the real path. So
Sure.
yeah.
So Barry, just that's firstly, I have to say that's amazing to be given that news at that time.
It was, young family, and literally
Unbelievable.
over the phone, he said, "You've got to be at the hospital Tuesday or you'll be dead," and hanged up on me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So how did you how did you overcome such a life-threatening issue?
Great question. Look, for me, the first thing I had to do was learn to calm myself down. I panicked, I guess, and I started saying goodbye to everyone. I was literally, saying goodbye to all my friends. And then I came across this area called meditation. And literally since then, I've been doing daily meditation, and it's become just part of my practice. So and meditation for me is simply a matter of being still. So that was sort of where I started. And then not long afterwards, one of the things having a tumor did for me is it gave me permission to explore other things. And so I started exploring all these other energy modalities like Reiki and Chiron, and even some massage and kinesiology. And that, I guess, gave me some abilities to be able to deal with it. And what it ultimately did is gave me skills that I could then use for others, and ultimately develop my own skills and my own modality.
Did you know any of these types of modalities prior to the diagnosis?
No, nothing at all. I was teaching accounting, I was teaching computers, I was coming from a really mainstream area. I was looking for something more, wasn't sure what that was. And literally within 6 months, my entire world literally flipped and changed.
Wow. You talk about energy systems, and one of the things about energy systems is about vibration and frequency. Perhaps you can tell the audience, what is vibration and what is frequency, and what's the difference between them?
Yeah. And this is something that I've learned because, I've been working on myself, and like many people here, have been doing personal development courses. And I found that despite all these personal development courses, my life simply wasn't working. I was broke and I was having relationship issues. And, I was meditating each day and somehow expecting by meditating that, the money would just fall into my lap, and everything would be just wonderful. And it was about 2015, I got an opportunity to travel the world. And I kept meeting people who were involved with both vibration and frequency. And I came home and sat with it and said, what's the difference for me? And really experimented on myself. And what I recognized is that vibration for me is about my connection to my inner world, connection to spirit, my level of consciousness, we could call it that. And most people who do any personal development work do really well at that level. Whereas frequency is about my relationship to the outside world. In other words, my relationship to manifesting, to attracting money, law of manifestation, law of attraction. And that's the part that I really worked on. And I actually worked on that through, particularly if there was one thing above all the other stuff that I did, it was around gratitude and just being really grateful for what I did have. And what it did, it just turned everything around to not only raise my vibration, but it raised my frequency as well. And literally turn my world, around again, to the extent that I'm now living in America, working internationally with people.
Can you
Barry,
perhaps? I was just going to say, Tony, Barry, could you share some examples with us?
Sure. I'll give you a really good example. And I had one of the programs I have in the Vision School is I'm known as the Blockbuster. Like that was sort of the title that America gave me. They liked it.
Is that like the Terminator?
Yeah, it's like the Terminator. And one guy actually introduced me as Barry the Blockbuster Auchettl, and I thought I was going to go for 15 rounds or something. But what I've done in the Vision School is there's a whole series of programs called Clear Blocks 2, Clear Blocks to Money Flow, Clear Blocks to Health, Clear Blocks to Intuition. And a really good example is in the Clear Blocks to Money Flow, the classes are set up beyond time and space. In other words, people can watch the replay and still get the benefit as if it's live. Like that was the intent.
Yeah.
And this guy called Alan, he actually did the program. Now, this guy was a big Texas, and not only a big Texas fellow, he was gay. And you can imagine, and he used to say, if life is tough, you try to be a gay Texan in the 1970s. Like it was tough for him. So much so that his parents disowned him and never spoke to him.
Wow.
Now, after the third class, within 30 minutes of doing the third class, not only did he get a phone call from his parents, and this is around clearing blocks to money, and in the third class, we was looking at his whole mindset and his relationship to his parents.
Yep.
Literally within 30 minutes, his parents rang him and gifted him $30,000 to support him.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And we have literally dozens of these stories, not to that amount, but we have literally dozens, almost hundreds of stories now of people where money just seems to show up for people.
Yeah. I've got a question for you,
Sure,
Barry. What's the easiest way to raise your vibration?
Probably what I said earlier, the easiest way to raise vibration is daily meditation.
Meditation.
We're not talking about meditating once a week, or I meditate at once. It's daily meditation. And I've even worked with a Zen master, and I had to tell him once I was muscle testing, and I said to him, "You're not meditating properly." I was so embarrassed to tell him.
Yeah.
And it's not about how you meditate. I'm not even interested in how. It's simply a matter of doing it each day.
Yeah. And where do thoughts and feelings fit into vibrations?
I think thoughts and feelings fit into everything. Like it really, how we feel about ourselves is what's going to raise our vibration. Do we feel good about ourselves? Do we deserve to have this? Are we worthy to have this?
Yeah.
And then we've got to look at the same thing for other people. If we're judging other people, and one of the biggest things to stop that I think even myself had to stop to some extent was gossip. But when we gossip about other people, we're just dropping the energy.
Yeah. You mentioned before some virtues like gratitude. Is there any other virtues that would be helpful? Perhaps enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm is really good. Perseverance has been one for me over the number of years. Like people say, how do you keep going? And there has been perseverance. There have been times where, for example, back in 2008, I had to get reoperated on for this pituitary tumor. A week after that, there was a blood clot, and the doctors literally told me I had 2 hours to live.
Wow.
Wow.
You've had a few close calls there, Barry.
And so, part of it is not only the recovery, I guess, of the physical operation, there's also that recovery of the spirit. And for me, it was about persevering and just totally believing that the work that I was doing was important to get out there.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is the mindset of being purposeful and having desire for life is so important. And also things like gratitude that helps raise your vibration. So tell us a little bit about your meditation. Do you sort of go into seeing and feeling gratitude around you? How do you do that?
Okay. One of the things I'm doing now, I can sit and I can meditate for an hour, and I really enjoy doing that. Yes. And like a lot of people, they don't have time. And one of the things I've been teaching is a 2-minute meditation, which I also do.
Well, this is good.
And
I think everyone needs that one.
Yeah. So a lot of times in meditation is people will sit still for 20, 30 minutes to find that sense of stillness.
Yeah.
And they eventually find that stillness, and they stay there for 1 or 2 minutes, and then they finish the meditation thinking that's it. And my argument I've been talking to my advanced students is simply saying, why don't we just jump in straight into stillness for 1 or 2 minutes and then leave it? And I even had one client who could not meditate, and I had her doing 30-second meditations.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like let's start with 30 seconds. And she built herself up. She was so proud. She rang me a week later and said, I can now meditate for a minute, like,
Wow.
and I think that is fine if that stillness is there rather than trying to keep ourselves busy for 20, 30 minutes and then drop into a meditative state.
Yeah, that's good.
So the question I've got for you, Barry, is, when on the weekend when I'm driving to Bunnings to go and buy something from Bunnings, I say to myself in my mind, I'm going to get a Rockstar car park when I get there.
Sure.
And believe it or not, sure enough, there'll be a spot literally at the front door because I think about it and I concentrate on it, and it always happens for me.
Sure.
But the question is, how does the money come into it?
Okay. I just want to I'll make a quick comment about your car park, because that comes up quite often. People say, I do all the spiritual work and I get car parks.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage people to do that, including yourself, we can do so much more than just car parks.
Yeah.
Like, that shows us what's possible for sure. But let's not limit our whole spiritual work to trying to get a car park.
Yeah, that's right.
So in terms of money, to me, it's about how many people I can help. Like my entire business is really based on helping as many people as I can. And I was taught really early that when I do that, the money side of it catches up. And so my business has virtually doubled every year in the last 4 years, including during the pandemic, has doubled each year, because all I've been doing is concentrating on the people that I'm helping.
Yeah.
And so the mindset is not about how much money I can make, what can I sell, what can I sell. My premise is about how can I help people. And all my clients who I have, and particularly my mentoring groups, are always saying, Barry, you always over deliver, you always give extra, you always give more programs. And like, I'm gifting them, for example, next month a $2,000 retreat that I'm gifting all my students, because I just want to support them in actually achieving what we say we want them to do.
Yeah, and I get that, what you're saying, Barry, because I must admit, and Tony would probably agree, that I've always run my business that way too. It's not about the money for me. It's about the purpose of me in coaching. Number one is to actually help people succeed.
Yes.
And I'm passionate about that. And, often people will say to me things like, you give too much away. But at the end of the day, even if someone's willing to, if they need help, they're happy. I'm happy to take a 30-minute phone call and not charge them, because, it's helping somebody.
Yeah. And I'm in the same situation with the limited time, I guess, that we have. But the process is that there are ways, even now with the Vision School, I can actually donate a program, for example, which we're going to do later, as a way of, what I'm wanting to do is shift people's mindset. And if we have to start with money for that, as a really good example for people to see a change, then they can shift the money, and then they can shift other aspects of raising their own consciousness.
That's right. Tell us a little bit more about frequency, how frequency plays its part.
Frequency is an interesting one. And what happens with frequency, it tends to have more of an up and down attitude. So, and I'll use myself as an example, that I created a board game called Conversations. My frequency was really high. I was in the right zone. All the information came through, and I create this amazing board game. And then what happens a few years later, it's like, oh, it's not selling. What's going on? Oh, what a waste of time doing this. And it sort of drops down, and nothing happens with the game. And then I sort of pull myself up again, and then, oh, it's taking off and people are using it again. It's all really good. And so frequency can not only is about raising frequency from the highs and lows, but we want to balance this out as well. And so what I find that when we do the work around frequency, and particularly around gratitude, but it's also about clearing these blocks. There's two components there. But when we can do that, we don't have the highs and we don't have the lows. But what actually happens overall, eventually, our lows are actually higher than what our highs were anyway, but we're more balanced and more grounded in it.
Is frequency more to do with how you're feeling, or is it more to do with how you're thinking?
No, frequency is actually that connection that we have with everyone else.
Yep.
So how we're thinking and what's going on with internally is our vibration. What's happening
Yep.
externally is the frequency.
So basically, are you saying it's sending out?
Yeah, it's sending good thoughts out to the world and having them coming back.
Yes.
You know, for me now, it's about attracting the right people that I have as clients. And Simon,
Yes.
I'm sure you do this as well. And as we grow and develop, the type of clients that we get develop with us, and we seem to attract, you know, not so much better clients, but clients that resonate to where I'm at.
Yes, that's right. The clients that are ready to learn.
Sure.
No, absolutely.
That's good.
Would you like an example of what this is?
Yes, please. Please give us an example.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the way I work with this, and just to let everyone know, I'm going to work with Simon. If it's all right, I work with you.
Sure, go.
So what's going to happen is I'm going to work with Simon, and as I clear Simon, the intent is to clear everyone here, but everyone listening live and everyone listening to the replay.
Great.
And
Beautiful.
I literally did this last week with a group of people, and literally within 2 hours, one lady had picked up a $100,000 client for the first time.
Wow.
And another fellow who had been dealing with insurance company for over 2 years resolved it within 2 hours of clearing this. And there was over half the group who had a major money situation occur within 24 hours.
Wow.
So I just want to let you know how powerful this is. And I'd be certainly interested. Let Simon and Tony know if there is a change. And both Simon and Tony let me know if there's a change for both of you as well.
Absolutely. I'll tell you if my bank account grows.
That's right. And it become part of the frequency is we allow it to come in whatever way it needs to come. In actual fact, Simon, what I've got for you, the statement I've got is I allow money to show up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be muscle testing you around this just to see whether there's a stress on it or not. So can you say for me, please, I allow money to show up?
I allow money to show up.
Okay. So there's actually some stress around that. I can actually hear the stress. And when I'm muscle testing, it's coming up as a stress as well. All right. And what it is, it's like what I'm seeing with you is that there's like this one way of which money's going to come in. If I work, then money's going to come in, and there's a direct relationship between the two. And what I want everyone, including yourself, to recognize is that money can come in anywhere through a whole range of surprises. You know, I had a previous bank who I had a loan with 5 years earlier. I needed some money one day, and they sent me a note and said, we miscalculated the closing of the house. Here's a check for $5,000.
Oh, gosh.
You know, like this is what we're really wanting to allow miracles to start turning up in people's lives and saying it. So this one, you know, it's those unexpected ones. And had a wonderful friend of mine who, again, did the Clear Blocks to Money Flow course. And within a day of doing it, a solicitor rang her up and said, we've got $14,000 here for you. And she did what you and I would do. She hanged up thinking it was a spam call, you know, like just a, yeah, sure, and hanged up on them. And they ran back and they said, look, we're serious. Here's the website. And true enough, there was an auntie or someone that left her insurance fee, left her all this money that she didn't know. So what I'm going to do is, can you relate that to yourself, Simon, that part of you thinks that you have to work out how the money's going to come in?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I probably agree with that.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is this technique that I created called light body alignment. It's really an energy system. That's what we're doing. We don't need to go into the details. We don't have time today, but we're just going to shift the energy of that statement. Because what's happening otherwise is the subconscious is going, well, no, it can't. I've got to do it this way. And it kicks in. We're just going to clear all of that away. Okay. So I'll get you to say again for me, please. I allow money to show up.
I allow money to show up.
Okay. How's that feel?
I think that I probably said that clearer, did I?
Yeah. It certainly came across clear. Tony, did you notice the difference?
Yeah, I noticed he was he was more confident than the first time. The first time he was sort of saying, he started off and then he slowed down and then started again, as if he wasn't 100% confident in that statement.
And so some people don't pick it up at all, and it doesn't matter. We still cleared it. So if you don't feel anything, for some people, they'll physically feel it in their body. They'll feel where it goes and what happens and things like that. The results, I just find are just there. So I just want you to be open for the next week or so for how money may show up for you and be open to that.
No, terrific, Barry. I'm intrigued very much.
Yeah. Thank you. And in actual fact, later on, what we're going to give you is there's a whole hour of clearing these money blocks, these things that stop us. In other words, I don't have enough money, and it's like, and even when people say use an affirmation like I'm a millionaire, and as soon as they say I'm a millionaire, their subconscious says no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And then they say it 100 times, and the 100 times their subconscious saying no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I can keep up with you all day,
Yeah.
And we've got to clear that part of it so that we can actually accept and own that statement.
Yeah.
All right. Tony, I'm going to do one more quick one with you, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Okay. So I've got a statement for you. And the statement is, I focus on how many people I can help.
I focus on how many people I can help.
Yeah. And there's just a little bit of stress around that. And I think sometimes what happens to us is that money can get in the way a little bit. Like sometimes, like I know who you are, and I know your desire is just to help people.
Yeah.
All right. And sometimes we can go, oh yeah, but we've got bills to pay this week, and we've got these things to happen, all that, right? Not just yourself.
Project management comes in.
Yeah. So
where's the budget?
So what I want you to do is just to focus, like I said before, what I do is focus on the people I can help. And we're just going to let the money, in a way, take care of itself. It'd still be there. We can look at it. But I look at it after I help people, not beforehand.
Yep.
So we're just going to clear this for you. And you might find that even some of your retreats will sort of swell rather than just fill. Yeah, that will be the difference. There's a lot in that one for you. Really interesting. When I cleared that, there's a lot of stories, particularly around your childhood, and particularly around your father's aspect about money, by the way.
Yes, that's right. He came from the Depression. He was always about saving and being very careful.
Yeah. Because as I cleared this stuff, those stories just pop up for me about what's going on here.
Yeah, I could feel a lot of the energy flowing through. I could feel a lot of sensations. So I think I can feel that you've actually done a lot of clearing, right?
Oh, thank you. Can you just say for me, I want to test it. I like, let's actually check it as well. Yeah. Can you say, I focus on how many people I can help?
I focus on how many people I can help.
Okay. And that's actually a whole lot stronger. Simon, I was wondering if you can notice a difference when he says that.
Yeah, I think that second one, he was a lot prouder in saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, hopefully that gives you an idea of how I operate, and as you can imagine, clearing those old blocks, and hence the blockbuster, can really start shifting for us who we are, and really help us to help others more in the world.
Yeah. That's marvelous. I'm just looking at the time now. I think we need to get Barry to just tell us if there's any one message that you'd like to give to the audience. What would it be?
I think the number one thing is to release any doubt that you have about how wonderful you are, and to really believe in yourself. That I think doubt is the biggest obstacle that we can have for moving forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Barry. I'd like to acknowledge you for the wisdom and your kindness that you've imparted to our audience. I think it's going to be very helpful. And I certainly felt clearing some of those blocks. With all the people, we carry lots of blocks with us from our childhood and so forth. And it's a never-ending job to clear those blocks. And
I still get my blocks cleared after doing this for 30 years. So there you go.
That's right. And the first thing that we got to do is work on ourselves to clear those blocks. And I'd like to thank you for coming on the show and explaining how it all works.
You're welcome.
over to you, Simon. What was your main insight today?
Well, I think firstly, it's terrific to meet you, Barry. It's an area that I'm not familiar with, and I think the first thing, you're like a cat with 9 lives. That's the first thing.
Right.
There's been a fair few of them left, actually. I'm trying not to do any of those experiments.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully you got sort of 8 left, but I think the thing that really shone for me, I think, was the gratitude, and I think even for myself, on LinkedIn with all my posting and that type of thing, it's always about gratitude and that real passion for wanting to help people and be able to receive that back as well. So I really thank you for that.
You're welcome. And one of the things I've got is a gift for everyone, which is a Clear Blocks to Making Money. It's the first point of call to starting in the programs. They go from making money to money flow to financial freedom to wealth and luxury. And we've got to start sometimes with making money. So I'd like to give that the entire program as a gift. If you use MF Gift, the coupon code's at the top of the screen when you go into it. And that'll be my gift for all you people who are listening.
Well, what I'll do as also is for our audience listening today or in our when I post it on LinkedIn, I'll also share that link for Barry, and they can take that special offer that you've given them. So I appreciate that, Barry.
Thanks, Barry.
As a special gift, Barry, we also have my world famous party pack of Cadbury favourites. But because you're in America, that means I'm just going to have to eat these myself. Unfortunately, but I can't even send them to Tony because he's overseas as well.
That's right. It's truly international, our calls now.
I've got my daughter in Ballarat. Maybe they can go there.
Okay.
No, look, I just wanted to reach out and say a very special thank you. I think you're going to amaze our audience, and I'm sure, I have absolutely no doubt that today's episode will be a fantastic and very well received by our audience, actually.
Thank you.
And may I add to that, Simon?
Yes, you may.
That's the things that Barry's given us is it's going to affect other people as well. So the actual, from both of us, the healings that he's given us will shine out to all our audience. So I encourage all our audience to follow your posts there, right? So they can see, get that benefit for themselves. Very important.
Exactly. Yes. And it is a special gift that Barry is offering. And I certainly, implore you to accept that and try it for yourself.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to meet you properly, Simon and Tony.
Not a problem. Now, I'd like to close the show by saying we have a very, very special guest with us in a fortnight's time. To true nature, I'm not going to divulge who it is, but she's a very special person. I know her very, very well. She's from Sydney, and I look forward to sharing her story, of her passionate story, with us in a fortnight's time. But thank you, Tony, for being my amazing co-host. And again, thank you, Barry, for coming onto our show today. And would love the opportunity to chat to you at a later stage anyway. But
same here as well.
For now, and thank you to our audience. We appreciate you, every one of you, and see you in a fortnight's time. All the best.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Upwards and onwards.